am going to tell you the story of Morgan House. The story has been written by me, Rini Basu, and it is one of the stories of my book, Shadows in the Dark and Other Ghost Stories. Now let us begin with the story, Morgan House. Do you know the history of Morgan House? Oni turned his head to look at us from the front passenger seat of the sumo. We were on our way from Siliguri to Kalimpong. It was a wonderfully sunny day in the month of May, and we felt relieved to get rid of the scorching heat of Kolkata, at least for a few days. Here the weather was pleasantly cool and the view was spectacular. The bubbly river Tista followed us all along the way. The sparkling emerald green water gargled and danced beside us as our car climbed higher and higher up, carefully judging the dangerous hairpin bends along the way. I thirstily looked out of the car, not willing to miss a single frame of this beautiful scenery. Oni's question broke my reverie. Why no? Does it have a history too? I asked casually. Of course it has. The Morgan House is a reminder of British colonialism. Mr. George Morgan, a British tea planter, built the house sometime during the 19th century. He and his wife peacefully lived in that house till Mrs. Morgan died an unnatural death at an early age. The heartbroken Mr. Morgan too died after a few years. None of his relatives from England came to claim his property. The aristocratic Victorian villa lay in a dilapidated condition for many years. It was renovated some years back by West Bengal Tourism Department. Now it is the official government tourist lodge in Kalimpong. You know, the Morgan House has a colonial aura and beautiful Himalayan landscape. This combination makes it such a popular destination among the tourists. Great! And now we too are going to stay there and enjoy the beauty of this aristocratic Victorian villa with its colonial aura and beautiful Himalayan landscape. I joked. Rupsha, my 13-year-old daughter, and Neil, my 7-year-old son, nudged each other and giggled. Not so fast, madam. There's more, Oni said mysteriously. I am listening, said I. Morgan House is counted among the topmost haunted places in India. It is believed that the apparition of Mrs. Morgan still walks in the house after sundown. If you are lucky, you may even get a glimpse of her ghastly face in the mirror, especially if you are staying in one of the first floor rooms. Oh, really? That will be so eerie. Why do you have to stay in that haunted resort, Babai? Rupsha sounded scared. Let's go to some other hotel, pleaded Neil. Now, normally there is little authenticity in these Canterville ghost-like stories attached to some of the popular tourist resorts and hotels. I said so. These fictional stories are spread by the hotel employees to attract tourists. Morgan House is always packed with tourists, isn't it? So it is, replied Oni. I had to book the room 3 months beforehand. So you see, now stop scaring the children with such nonsensical tales. Oni raised his hands in surrender. I don't know. I'm innocent. I just repeated what I heard. All of us rolled with laughter. Neil mischievously smiled and said, Copycat. Actually, Oni did copy Neil's favorite excuse. After every mischief, he invariably puts up his hand and says, I don't know, I am innocent. Ani resumed his narration again. Actually, one of my office colleagues, Mr. Datta, narrated a very scary incident. He and a couple of his friends had gone to Kalimpong a couple of years back. They lodged at Morgan House without knowing its frightful history. Very few tourists were staying there at that time, as it was the middle of a week. One evening, they were having whiskey in the restaurant. One of his friends had forgotten his packet of cigarettes in the room. So he returned to the room to collect them. He unlocked the door and was about to enter when he heard the clip-clopping noise of footsteps inside the dark room. It seemed as if a lady wearing high-heeled shoes was walking on the wooden floor. The first thought that came into his mind was burglars. He instantly switched on the light, but to his extreme surprise, could not find anyone inside the room. He was thinking of calling the room attendant when he again heard the clip-clopping noise walking past him into the passage outside. Then he saw something that made him scared out of his wits. It had been a rainy day. He did not see anyone in person, only saw muddy footprints appear on the wooden floor, clip-clopping towards the other end of the passage. The terrified man let out a loud yell and fell down on the floor, senseless. When he did not return even after half an hour, his friends felt worried. They went upstairs to look into the matter. They found their friend lying senseless in front of their room. He was also running with high temperature. They immediately carried him inside and called a local doctor. After the doctor arrived, the man came back to his senses and narrated the entire incident to the others. He still felt shaky from the horrifying experience. But no one found any muddy footprint on the floor. The doctor, who was an old resident of the place, did not think that the matter should be taken lightly. He advised the friends to lodge in some other hotel and stay there till their friend recovered from the shock. He himself helped them to get a room in another nearby hotel. They had to cancel their return tickets and extend their stay for another 3 days. Well, if you knew this resort to be so ill reputed and haunted, then why did you book our room here? I asked. I knew nothing about all these things when I booked the hotel 3 months back. I was searching for a standard hotel or resort in Kalimpong on the net. The name of Morgan House appeared on top of the list, probably because it's a government resort. I liked its appearance, its position, the surrounding scenery, the rooms and the room tariff, you know, all those stuff. Even the reviews were good, hence I booked it. Mr. Datta told me about his experience just a couple of days back. Then I searched the net and found that it's one of the most haunted places in India. But then it was too late to book another hotel. Hmm. But then, why did you have to tell us all this now? I asked. I myself don't care much for such supernatural stuff, but the children might feel scared to stay there. Oni looked a bit guilty. I thought that they would love the feel of adventure. Why, Neil and Rupsha, wouldn't you enjoy staying in a hotel that is supposed to be horrendously haunted? The children did not join in on his laughter and silently looked out of the car window. We reached Kalimpong a little after 11 a.m. The weather had changed on the way. All of a sudden, the azure sky had been covered with dark clouds. The temperature had drastically fallen. We had to stop the car on the way to take out warm clothes from the luggage put. Oni lit a cigarette to keep himself warm. This is the problem with mountain weather. You can never predict them. It was so beautifully sunny when we had started our journey. Well, hope it doesn't rain. If it does, then it will ruin our vacation. Thapaji, do you think this weather is going to last for long? Our Nepali driver looked at the sky and shook his head. I cannot say, sir. A shower is coming soon. Let's hurry up. It's difficult to drive on slippery roads. And it's risky too. It was already drizzling when we reached Kalimpong. Morgan House was situated on the top of a hill. The steep uphill drive through the narrow track was quite scary. But Thapaji drove with expertise and soon we reached the driveway of Morgan House. Morgan House indeed looked eerie in the dark, gloomy weather. It was a colossal grey stone building with a sprawling garden surrounding it. The huge old mansion seemed to step out straight from a Hollywood horror movie. Ruksha said that the Victorian grey building in the backdrop of the dark grey sky reminded her of Baskerville Hall from the movie The Hound of the Baskervilles. Neil said nothing. He was silently observing the house and its surroundings. Renovation work was going on in the southern wing of the first floor. We were allotted a four-bedded room in the northern wing of the same floor. We climbed up an old wooden staircase and reached a huge room with wooden floor, spacious enough to form an eight-bedded dormitory. Two double beds lay side by side at the center of the room. There was a huge carved wooden wardrobe at one end that looked so typically British that it reminded me of its former owner. A similar antique wooden dressing table with a huge oval mirror stood at the other end. The other furniture of the room were modern: a sofa set, a glass top center table, television, telephone, etc. The attached washroom was neat and clean, with a huge bathtub at the center. The balcony, we were told, offered magnificent view of the Himalayas, though nothing was visible at that time except fog and dark clouds. We were tired after the long, tedious journey. No one thought of taking a warm bath except me. We lunched at the restaurant downstairs. The steaming hot thukpa tasted extremely good in that chilly weather. By the time we finished our lunch, the drizzling had stopped. Patches of blue sky could be seen through the grey clouds. A feeble ray of the sun penetrated through the clouds and fell on the lush green lawn. The improving weather lifted our mood. I just had a talk with the manager, said Oni as we climbed up the creaky staircase. The hotel's car will take us to the market in the evening. It's almost 3 now. Let's take an hour's rest and get ready by 4:30. I hope the weather doesn't deteriorate, said I, inserting the key into the door lock. The chilly room made us shiver. I switched on the room heater. Soon we snuggled under the warm blankets and fell into a deep slumber. We woke up a little after 4. Outside it was drizzling again. Oni called up room service and ordered tea for all of us. But we were informed that tea had not been prepared yet, and their special ginger tea would be ready within a short while. We were also informed that the car was ready to take us to the market. Oni decided to have tea in the beautiful garden-facing restaurant. Get up, everyone, and get dressed. Let's have ginger tea and steaming hot momos in the restaurant. After the shower stops, we'll go to the market. The children dressed up with alarming alacrity at the mention of hot momos. I was still half asleep under the warm, cozy blanket and refused to get up. Oni frowned at me. What's the matter with you? Get up! Or shall I sprinkle cold water on your face? Neil and Rupsha failed to conceal their grin. I rubbed my eyes and sat up on the bed, pulling the blanket around me. It was already beginning to get dark outside. Oni switched on the only light in the room. The 40-watt tube light above the dressing table failed to illuminate every part of the big room. The corners remained in semi-darkness. Babai, I think Mom will take at least half an hour's time to get ready, said Rupsha. In the meantime, why don't we go to the restaurant and place our order? She can join us later. I think Didi Bhai is right, replied Neil. If we leave your mother here, she is sure to fall asleep again, said Oni. I could see that the children were getting impatient for their hot momos. Oh, please go. I promise I won't be late. Okay, 15 minutes, said Oni and walked out of the room. I locked the door as Oni and the children went downstairs. The silence of the room was unbearable. I switched on the television and surfed through the channels. One of the Hindi channels was showing an old Hindi movie, Gumnaam, a murder mystery thriller that went on to become a smashing hit. It was nice to see it after so many years. The wardrobe was situated at a remote corner of the room. I went there and selected my dress. Then I closed it and returned in front of the mirror. While dressing, I became engrossed in the movie. During an advertisement break, my eyes fell on the mirror through which the wardrobe was clearly visible. Its doors were ajar. It was strange. I clearly remembered having firmly closed the doors after taking my clothes out. Anyway, I went to the wardrobe and tightly secured the doors again. By this time, I was almost ready. I switched off the TV and the room heater and picked up the room key from the bedside table. In my hurry, I almost forgot to collect my purse from the wardrobe. As I turned towards the wardrobe, I received a massive jolt. The doors were ajar again. I slowly looked around me. The well draped glass windows were closed and bolted from within. The entrance and washroom doors were closed. So there was no way that a sudden gush of wind should enter from outside and open the wardrobe doors. This did not happen when all of us were present in the room. As I mentioned before, the big room was poorly lit, and the wardrobe was situated in a dark corner. The open wardrobe, with its dark interior, the antique furniture, the creaky wooden floor, the inadequate lighting, and the pin drop silence in the room together would make a tremendous impact on any person staying in that room alone. Beads of perspiration appeared on my forehead in spite of the chill in the air. I recalled all the rumors regarding the paranormal activities occurring in this place. Nonsense! I scolded myself for unnecessarily getting tense and felt angry with Oni for narrating all those silly stories. Yet, it required loads of courage to walk over to the wardrobe, retrieve my purse, and secure the doors again. I felt it would be best to get out of the room as soon as possible. In my hurry, the key slipped from my hand and landed on the floor. As I bent down to pick it up, a slight creaking noise made me freeze. Without turning, I knew that the doors had opened again. I slowly straightened up and remained standing there. I wanted to shriek, but my voice was choked. I wanted to run, but my legs felt too heavy even for a single step. Was there someone else in the room? I did not have the courage to turn round to see if there was. Was someone breathing ice on my neck? The temperature seemed below freezing point. Wasn't the room heater working properly? Oh, I had turned it off. Was the voltage of the light fluctuating? The room was getting darker every moment. Was there no air in the room? It was getting difficult to breathe. A thin film of darkness was coming over my eyes. Was I losing my consciousness? A loud knock on the door brought me back to my senses. I flew to the door and opened it. Oni was standing there. Never did I feel so relieved in my life. I stood there, breathing heavily. I forgot to take my purse, he said. I'm ready, I managed to say. Let's go to the restaurant. Will you lock the door? You look pale. What's the matter? I thought fast. We would be staying in this hotel for the next 2 days. It would be unwise to narrate my frightful experience to the others. It might scare them and spoil their vacation. So it would be best to keep quiet for the time being and make sure that none of us remained alone in that room again. Nothing at all, I replied. I was watching a scary movie on the TV. Let's go to the restaurant. Oni collected his purse from the dressing table and locked the door. Thank God he forgot to take the purse. The brightly lit restaurant and the hot ginger tea did wonders to my taut nerves and lifted my spirit. All those silly supernatural stories must have triggered my imaginative power. Though I tried to brush off the incident as baseless and silly, I knew I could never stay alone in that room again. Nothing happened during our next 2 days' stay there. I made sure that none of us remained alone in that room. Facetiously, the wardrobe never malfunctioned again. Next morning, I saw the old gardener of the hotel. He was a local man and turned out to be quite knowledgeable. I narrated my horrifying experience to him. The old man looked knowingly at me. You are lucky, madam, he said. Many boarders had worse experience in that room. Thank your lucky stars that you did not see the ghastly face of Mrs. Morgan in the mirror. You know, it was once her bedroom. So my premonition was right. Now we come back to October 2018. Decades have passed. Rupsha and Neil are now grown up, and the memory of Morgan House has receded into an obscure corner of my memory. This year, we plan to visit Darjeeling, Rishabh, Lava, Lolegaon, and Kalimpong during our puja vacation. Rupsha and Neil wanted to stay in Morgan House, but remembering our earlier experience, Oni objected to it. He tried to put forth various excuses to put them off, but to no avail. The story Morgan House had heightened their curiosity, and they strongly wanted to stay in the same room where we had our earlier stay. But that did not happen, as all the rooms for that date were priorly booked by others. After reaching Kalimpong, we decided to visit Morgan House. After lunch, we booked a local cab and headed for our destination. Memories flooded back as our car moved uphill towards Morgan House. Last time we came in the month of May and the sky was covered with heavy clouds. This time it was October and the day was clear and sunny. But Morgan House looked the same as it had done so many years ago. It was the same grey colossal stone building with the sprawling garden surrounding it. The Victorian mansion still looked like the set of a Hollywood horror movie. Mom, it still looks like Baskerville Hall to me, said Rupsha. Yes, agreed Neil. Only a hound is needed to complete the picture. I longed to have a look at the room where we had stayed and had that ghastly experience. But the lady caretaker said that would not be possible, as there were boarders in that room at that time. She turned out to be the daughter of the old caretaker who was there during our earlier visit. Finding her to be a friendly young girl, I narrated the horrifying experience I had during our earlier stay. She listened to my story interestedly asking a few questions here and there. When it was over, she said, Madam, no doubt your story will make interesting reading, but currently there are no ghosts in Morgan House. It is in high demand round the year, and our boarders have never complained of any of the rooms being haunted. I think the ghost of Lady Morgan, if ever she was here, has left the place for good. Hearing this, I felt very disappointed. Not that I had expected any supernatural experience during our short visit. Yet the knowledge that Morgan House was now like any other ordinary building made me feel sad. I felt that the speciality of the mansion was lost with the departure of Lady Morgan's spirit. The gardener said that the room in which we stayed was Lady Morgan's bedroom, said I. The old gardener is no more, madam, said the caretaker. Do you know? He had worked for Lady Morgan as well. This was news to me. Now I understood how he knew so much about the rooms. I asked about the antique furniture of the room. Were they still in use? The caretaker said that all those antique furniture had been replaced with modern furniture. Lady Morgan's famous mirror, which reflected her ghostly face at times, the wooden wardrobe that had malfunctioned, the Burmah couches and sofas, and even the bathtub had been replaced. That might be the reason why the lady's spirit chose not to stay there any longer. With a sigh, I took some photographs and returned back to our hotel. It was not until we returned to Kolkata and transferred the photographs into my laptop that I realized that Lady Morgan is still very much there in Morgan House. We did not see her, but the lens of the camera did. Somehow, it gave me some pleasure to learn that our very own Canterville ghost is not lost forever. The heritage ghost is still haunting the heritage mansion. Just look at the picture. Look at the picture.